is Stella Mouroutsou. I'm a third-year PhD student at the University of Glasgow, at the School of Education, which belongs to the College of Social Sciences. And right now we are at the St. Andrews building, where the school is based, at the 5th floor, where my office is, having this low view, and sometimes it's very inspiring for writing. I'm interested in inclusive education, and my research is focused on the policy called Better Relationships, Better Learning, Better Behaviour, which is this one. This policy document was published in March of 2013 in response to the Behaviour in Scottish Schools report 2012. Actually, it includes priority actions to support local authorities, practitioners, partners, and establishments to promote positive relationships and behavior within their learning communities. So that's the aim of the policy, and actually that's the aim of that's one of the aims of the Curriculum for Excellence and GEARFEC, which is getting it right for every child. So a group of people were gathered and formulated this policy. The group that created the policy was called SAGBIS, but now it has been renamed to SAGRABIS, which is the Scottish Advisory Group for Relationships and Behaviour in Schools. What I'm really studying is the implementation of the policy, and actually I'm interested in observing how the policy travels, let's say, from policy makers and is distributed to schools. So I want to see that process, and I want to see how people interpret the policy, how policymakers conceptualize the policy, how the policy is understood by teachers and is implemented by them, and of course how pupils perceive the policy through the practices. I started by distributing a questionnaire, an online questionnaire, to all secondary schools, because I'm focusing on mainstream secondary schools. So I distributed a questionnaire to all secondary schools of Scotland. From those responses, I chose my sample, and I interviewed support teachers from specific schools, from specific secondary mainstream schools, and I had focus groups with supported pupils mainly. But I saw that it would be interesting if I have some more interviews with education officers, because the policy is received by them and then they distribute the policy to the schools. So I want to involve them as well. I think that through my research, policymakers could see how the policy, as I said earlier, travels from them to the schools. Which are the people, which are the agents in a way, if we see it as a complex system, if we see inclusive education and policy implementation as a complex system, they could see probably the agents that are involved in that system and their relationships, and they could see the different interpretations from different people of the policy, about the policy, and they could also listen to the teachers and pupils' voices, which I think is very important, because the policy is aimed basically for their support, and they could read it as a feedback for reflection, evaluation, and possibly to make some changes. When I received the questionnaires back from the schools, it was interesting to see that most of them have received and implemented the policy, but it was also interesting to see that some schools hadn't received the policy, so they don't implement it, or there were some schools that they implement the policy although they haven't received it, which was a little bit weird, or some schools they have received the policy but they don't implement it, which was very honest by them to admit it. And another interesting information that emerged up to now is that children would like to feel more, would like to be listened more. That's what I find the most interesting up to my analysis up to now, because I'm in the very early stages of my analysis.